Isabella Marino made one fatal mistake. She believed a mafia king could love her more than he loved his crown. Tonight, sitting alone at their anniversary dinner while her husband chooses a phone call over her existence, she finally understands the truth. She married a man who sees her as nothing more than expensive furniture in his penthouse. But what Roman D'Amato doesn't know yet is that the woman he's ignored for 3 years is about to walk out of his life forever. And by the time he realizes what he's lost, she'll be too far gone to ever come back. If you want to see how a woman rises from the ashes of a broken marriage and makes a mafia boss regret every cold word he ever spoke, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The penthouse smelled like failure dressed up as success. Isabella Marino sat at the head of an absurdly long dining table, staring at the flickering candles she'd lit 2 hours ago. The wax had melted halfway down. The risotto had gone cold. The champagne had lost its bubbles. And her husband, the man she'd spent the entire day preparing this anniversary dinner for, was standing in the doorway with his phone pressed to his ear, talking to someone who apparently mattered more than she did. She didn't move, didn't speak. Just watched him the way you'd watch a stranger on the subway, with detached curiosity and the faint recognition that you'd seen this particular brand of disappointment before. Roman D'Amato was a beautiful disaster of a man. 6'3", broad-shouldered, with the kind of sharp jawline that made photographers weep and enemies reconsider their life choices. His dark hair was swept back in that careless way that somehow looked intentional, and his gray suit probably cost more than most people's cars. He wore power like cologne, expensive, overwhelming, impossible to ignore. But right now, standing there in their marble entryway, completely absorbed in whatever criminal logistics were being discussed on that call, he just looked like a very well-dressed asshole. "I don't care what Vitelli says," Roman said into the phone, his voice flat and cold. "If he can't deliver by Thursday, we move to the secondary supplier. No exceptions." Isabella picked up her wine glass. Put it down. Picked it up again. The Bordeaux tasted like expensive regret. "Handle it," Roman said, and ended the call. He slipped the phone into his pocket and finally looked at her. Not the way a husband looks at his wife, more like a CEO glancing at his secretary before asking where his coffee was. "You're still up," he said. "Not happy anniversary, not sorry I'm late, not even hello." "It's our anniversary," Isabella said quietly. Roman's expression didn't change. He walked past her toward the bar, loosening his tie with one hand. "I know what day it is. Do you?" He poured himself 2 fingers of scotch, neat. "Isabella, I've had a long day. I'm not in the mood for whatever this is." Whatever this is, as if she were some minor inconvenience interrupting his very important schedule of ruining people's lives and laundering money through legitimate businesses. "I made dinner," she said. "I can see that." He took a drink, still not looking at her. "You didn't have to. We've been married for 3 years today. I'm aware." "Are you?" Isabella's voice cracked slightly, and she hated herself for it. "Because you're acting like you forgot. Or worse, like you don't care." Roman finally turned to face her, and the coldness in his eyes made her stomach twist. This wasn't anger. Anger would have been better. Anger meant he felt something. This was just nothing. A blank, efficient assessment of a problem he didn't have time to solve. "I told you yesterday I had meetings tonight," he said. "You have meetings every night. That's my job. Your job is running a criminal empire, Roman. It doesn't require you to be absent from your own life 24 hours a day." His jaw tightened, the only indication that her words had landed anywhere close to target. "We're not having this conversation again." "We never have this conversation. That's the problem." Isabella stood up, her chair scraping against the marble floor. "When was the last time we actually talked? Not about your business or your enemies or which politician you're bribing this week. When did we last talk about us?" "There is no us separate from my business, Isabella. You knew what you were getting into when you married me. I married a man who said he loved me. And I do. You have a really fucked up way of showing it." The profanity surprised them both. Isabella almost never cursed. She'd been raised in a good Italian family where ladies didn't use language like that, where women smiled and nodded and kept their disappointments locked away in pretty boxes. But 3 years of being invisible had worn through her good manners. Roman set his glass down slowly, deliberately. "What do you want from me? I want you to be here." Her voice was shaking now, and she couldn't stop it. "Not physically here. You're always physically here, walking through this penthouse like it's a hotel you're staying at temporarily. I want you to actually see me, to remember that I exist when you're not in the same room as me, to act like I'm your wife instead of—" She gestured helplessly at the cold dinner, the melted candles, the untouched champagne. "Instead of set decoration in your very important life." Roman's expression didn't soften. If anything, it hardened. "You want honesty, Isabella?" Something in his tone made her blood run cold. "What?" "You want to know what I'm thinking, what I actually feel?" She should have said no. Should have turned around and walked away. Should have kept whatever illusion she'd been clinging to intact for just one more night. Instead, she lifted her chin and said, "Yes." The silence that followed felt like falling. "Marrying you," Roman said slowly, each word precisely measured, "was the biggest mistake of my life." Isabella's breath caught. "You were supposed to be temporary," he continued, and his voice was so calm it was almost gentle, almost kind, which somehow made it worse. "A distraction. Something pretty to come home to when I needed a break from the real work. But then you started wanting things. Attention, conversation, love." He said the word like it was a disease. "You started acting like this was a real marriage instead of what it actually is. A business arrangement that I've been too busy to dissolve." She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe, could only stand there while her husband dismantled their entire relationship with the same clinical efficiency he probably used when ordering someone's execution. "I don't love you, Isabella. I'm not even sure I like you anymore. You're needy and exhausting, and frankly, you've become a burden I don't have time for." Her hands were shaking. "Then why did you marry me? Because you were beautiful and quiet, and you didn't ask questions. Because having a wife made me look more legitimate to the people who needed convincing. Because—" He stopped, reconsidering. "It doesn't matter why. The point is, it was a mistake, and I'm done pretending otherwise." Isabella felt something crack inside her chest. Not her heart. That had been breaking in slow motion for months, tiny fractures accumulating until the whole structure was compromised. This was something else, something cleaner. Her dignity, maybe. Or her fear. Whatever it was, its absence made the room feel lighter. "Okay," she said. Roman blinked. "What?" "Okay." Isabella walked around the table, her heels clicking against the marble. "You're right, this was a mistake, all of it." She kept walking, past the cold risotto, past the dead champagne, past the man she'd wasted 3 years loving. "Where are you going?" Roman's voice had changed slightly, still cold but with an edge of something that might have been confusion. "To pack." Isabella, she stopped at the doorway, one hand on the frame, didn't turn around. "Thank you for finally being honest with me. I've spent 3 years wondering what I did wrong, why I wasn't enough to make you care. Turns out, I didn't do anything wrong. You're just incapable of caring about anyone except yourself. You're being dramatic." Now she did turn around, and the look on her face made Roman take a step back. "Dramatic would be staying," Isabella said. "Dramatic would be begging you to love me, or crying, or breaking things. Dramatic would be pretending that any of this—" She gestured at the penthouse, the expensive furniture, the view of the city that had never once made her feel less alone, "was ever worth what I gave up for it." "What did you give up?" Roman's voice was sharp now, defensive. "I gave you everything. This apartment, clothes, jewelry. I gave up my life." The words erupted from somewhere deep, somewhere she'd kept carefully locked away. "I had a career, friends, a family that actually wanted to see me. But you said you needed me, that you loved me, that we'd build something real together. So I walked away from all of it. And for what? To sit alone in this gorgeous cage while you're out there building your empire?" Roman's hands curled into fists at his sides. "I never asked you to give up anything. You didn't have to ask. That's how love works. Or how I thought it worked. You make sacrifices for the person you love. You show up. You try." Her voice cracked again, but she pushed through it. "But I was the only one trying, Roman. I've been the only one trying for a long time." She turned to leave again. If you walk out that door, I'm not coming after you. Isabella paused, looked back over her shoulder. Good, she said. That'll make it easier. She went to their bedroom, his bedroom really, since she was the only one who slept in it most nights, and pulled her largest suitcase from the closet. The designer walk-in was full of clothes she'd never asked for, jewelry she rarely wore, shoes that cost more than her old monthly rent. She left almost all of it. Instead, she packed the practical things. Jeans, sweaters, the sketchbook she'd hidden in the back of the closet, filled with design ideas she'd been too afraid to pursue, the few photographs she had of her old life, before Roman, before this beautiful prison. She was zipping the suitcase when her phone buzzed. A text from Maya, her best friend, the only friend who'd survived the transition into Mrs. D'Amato. Maya, you good? Haven't heard from you in days. Isabella stared at the message, then typed, Can I stay with you tonight? The response was immediate. Always. What happened? I'm leaving him. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Maya, about fucking time. I'll open the wine. Isabella almost smiled. Almost. She grabbed her suitcase, her purse, her car keys, the one thing Roman had given her that she'd actually use, and walked back through the penthouse one last time. Roman was still in the living room, standing by the window with his phone in his hand, probably already calling someone to discuss shipping routes or territorial disputes or whatever criminals discussed when their wives left them. He looked up when she appeared in the doorway. You're actually doing this, he said. Not a question. Yes. Where will you go? That's not your problem anymore. Something flickered across his face, anger maybe, or wounded pride. You think you'll be better off without me? You have no job, no money of your own? I have enough. It wasn't quite true, but it would be. And I'll figure out the rest. This is about the anniversary dinner, isn't it? You're throwing away our marriage because I was late to one dinner? Isabella laughed, a sharp, broken sound. This isn't about the dinner, Roman. This is about 3 years of dinners I ate alone. 3 years of waking up next to someone who looked at me like I was a stranger. 3 years of being married to a man who's in love with his own power and nothing else. That's not fair. Fair? She shifted the suitcase to her other hand. You just told me marrying me was the biggest mistake of your life. You said I was a burden, that you don't even like me, and now you're upset that I'm agreeing with you? Roman's jaw worked. I was angry. I didn't mean, yes, you did. That's the problem. You meant every word and we both know it. Isabella opened the door. I hope your empire keeps you warm at night, Roman. I hope it fills all the empty spaces in this apartment. I hope it's everything you wanted it to be. Isabella? She closed the door on whatever he was about to say. The elevator ride down felt like traveling through time. 63 floors of reverse history from Mrs. D'Amato back to Isabella Marino, the woman she used to be, the woman she'd almost forgotten. The lobby doorman looked surprised to see her with luggage, but didn't ask questions. People in Roman's world had learned not to ask questions. She threw her suitcase in the trunk of her car, a sleek black Mercedes that Roman had bought her for their first anniversary, back when he still occasionally remembered she existed, and sat in the driver's seat for a long moment. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, from relief. She drove to Maya's apartment in Brooklyn, and her best friend was waiting on the stoop with 2 glasses of wine and the same fierce expression she'd worn since they were 14 years old and Isabella's first boyfriend had cheated on her. I'm going to kill him, Maya said by way of greeting. Get in line. Isabella took one of the wine glasses and drank half of it in one go. What happened? Isabella told her. All of it. The anniversary dinner, the cold words, the brutal honesty that had felt like violence. Maya listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each sentence. When Isabella finished, Maya said, I never liked him. You told me that multiple times. And you didn't listen. I was in love. You were in love with the idea of him, the man he pretended to be when you first met. Maya reached over and squeezed her hand. The real Roman D'Amato is exactly who he showed you tonight. Cold, selfish, incapable of seeing anyone else as fully human. I wasted 3 years of my life. No. Maya's voice was firm. You learned something about yourself, about what you're willing to accept. That's not a waste, that's data. Isabella laughed despite herself. You sound like a scientist. I am a scientist, biochemist. Remember? Maya topped off both their glasses. And as a scientist, I can confirm that Roman D'Amato is a garbage human being, and you're going to be so much better without him. They sat on the stoop for a while, drinking wine and watching the Brooklyn traffic. It was nearly midnight, and the city hummed around them. Car horns, distant sirens, the bodega on the corner blasting bachata through its open door. It was loud and messy and completely unglamorous. Isabella loved it. "What are you going to do now?" Maya asked eventually. "I don't know." The honesty felt good. "Figure out how to be a person again. Maybe get a job." "What kind of job?" "I used to do interior design before Roman. So do that again." "It's been 3 years, Maya. I don't even know if I'm still good at it." "Please. You redesigned my entire apartment in one afternoon using only IKEA furniture and sheer force of will. You're still good at it." Maya stood up, pulling Isabella with her. "Come on, let's go inside. You need food and sleep and probably a shower, in that order." Maya's apartment was small, a one-bedroom in Crown Heights that cost twice what it should, because that's how New York worked. But it felt warm, lived in, real. Isabella slept on this couch that night, wrapped in a blanket that smelled like lavender fabric softener, and for the first time in months, she didn't wake up feeling hollow. The next morning, Maya left for work early. Something about protein synthesis that Isabella didn't fully understand, and Isabella found herself alone with her thoughts and a truly terrible cup of bodega coffee. She pulled out her phone, ignored the 17 missed calls from Roman and the 3 text messages that said variations of, "We need to talk." Instead, she opened her old portfolio website, the one she'd created 5 years ago when she'd been building her design business from scratch. It was outdated. Half the links were broken. But the work was still good. She'd forgotten how good. There was the Brooklyn loft she'd turned into a photography studio, all exposed brick and industrial lighting. The West Village brownstone where she'd restored original crown molding and convinced the owners that wallpaper could be elegant instead of grandmotherly. The Tribeca restaurant that had hired her to create an intimate atmosphere in a space the size of an airplane hangar. She'd been talented, driven, confident. Then she'd met Roman, and somehow all of that had dissolved into being someone's wife. Not anymore. Isabella spent the entire day updating her website, reaching out to old contacts, drafting emails to potential clients. Some of them probably wouldn't remember her. Some of them would ask where she'd been for 3 years. She'd tell them the truth. She'd made a mistake, but she was back now. By the time Maya got home that evening, Isabella had sent out 32 emails and had 3 responses, 2 polite rejections and 1 maybe. "A maybe is good," Maya said, reading over her shoulder. "Maybes turn into yeses if you're persistent enough. Or they turn into restraining orders. Only if you're weird about it. Don't be weird about it." Isabella laughed. "I'll try." Over the next week, she fell into a rhythm. Wake up, coffee, job hunting, portfolio refinement. More coffee. Repeat. The maybe turned into a consultation. A young couple in Park Slope who'd bought a fixer-upper and had no idea what to do with it. Isabella met them on a Thursday afternoon, walked through their disaster of a house, and within 30 minutes had a complete vision for the space. They hired her on the spot. It wasn't a huge project, 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a living room that needed better flow, but it was hers. Her ideas. Her hands building something real instead of just sitting in a penthouse waiting for a man who'd never cared. She worked 18-hour days, sourcing materials, negotiating with contractors, painting walls at 2 in the morning because the couple couldn't afford to hire it out and Isabella was too excited to sleep anyway. When it was finished 3 weeks later, the transformation was stunning. The couple cried. Isabella almost cried. Maya definitely cried when she came to see it. "You're back," Maya said. And she was. The couple posted before and after photos on Instagram, tagged Isabella. Within 48 hours, she had 6 new inquiries. Within a month, she had 4 projects running simultaneously. Within 2 months, she'd hired an assistant and moved into her own apartment. Nothing fancy, just a studio in Bushwick with good light and questionable plumbing. But it was hers, paid for with money she'd earned herself. Roman called occasionally, left voicemails that she deleted without listening to, sent flowers that she gave to Maya, showed up at her new apartment once, and she'd looked at him through the doorway without opening it and said, "Go away, Roman. We should talk." "We already talked. You said everything you needed to say. I was angry. You were honest. There's a difference. Isabella started to close the door. I miss you, Roman said, and for the first time in their entire relationship, he sounded almost vulnerable. Almost. You miss having someone to ignore, Isabella said. That's not the same as missing me. She closed the door, locked it, went back to the kitchen table where she'd been reviewing paint samples. Didn't think about him again until the next morning, when she woke up and realized she'd made it 12 whole hours without Roman D'Amato taking up space in her head. Progress. 4 months after leaving Roman, Isabella got invited to present at a design showcase in Manhattan. It was small, just local designers showing their work, networking, maybe landing some new clients. But it felt significant, like crossing some invisible finish line. Maya insisted on coming for moral support, which really meant drinking the free wine and aggressively complimenting Isabella to anyone who would listen. My best friend did that, Maya kept saying, pointing at Isabella's portfolio boards. She's a genius. Hire her. Seriously, hire her. You're embarrassing, Isabella whispered. You're talented. Someone should shout about it. The showcase was crowded. Designers, contractors, a few journalists from local magazines. Isabella was talking to a potential client about a restaurant redesign when Maya appeared at her elbow, slightly drunk and grinning like she'd just won the lottery. There's someone you need to meet, Maya said. I'm in the middle of... Trust me. Maya dragged her across the room to where a man stood studying one of Isabella's portfolio boards. He was tall, maybe early 40s, with dark brown hair graying at the temples and glasses that made him look like an architect in a prestige television drama. Gabriel, Maya said. This is Isabella Marino. Isabella, this is Gabriel Vale. He's an architect and he has excellent taste and he thinks your work is brilliant. Gabriel turned and when he smiled, it was warm, genuine, the kind of smile that reached his eyes. Your friend is exaggerating, he said. I only said it was impressive. He said brilliant, Maya stage whispered to Isabella. I heard him. I'm surrounded by very enthusiastic women, Gabriel said, but he was still smiling. Someone has to be enthusiastic, Maya said. Isabella is too modest to brag about herself. There's nothing wrong with modesty, Gabriel said, then extended his hand to Isabella. Your work really is impressive, though. The Park Slope renovation especially, the way you opened up that living room without compromising the period details. That's difficult to do well. Isabella shook his hand, surprised. You know the project? The couple who hired you are friends of mine. They haven't stopped talking about it for weeks. His handshake was firm, professional. I'm always looking for good designers to collaborate with. Would you be interested in discussing some potential projects? Yes, Isabella said, perhaps too quickly. Gabriel's smile widened. Great. Here's my card. Call me next week and we'll set up a meeting. He had to leave for another appointment, but before he did, he looked at Isabella's portfolio one more time and said, You have real talent. I'm looking forward to working with you. After he left, Maya grabbed Isabella's shoulders. He's perfect. He's a professional contact. He's gorgeous and age-appropriate, and he looked at you like you were a person, not a possession. That's perfect in my book. You're drunk. I'm observant. Maya clinked her wine glass against Isabella's water. And I observe that you're smiling for the first time tonight. Isabella was smiling. She couldn't help it. This, the showcase, the projects, the possibility of collaboration with someone who respected her work, this felt like the beginning of something real. Something built on her own merit instead of someone else's money. She looked around this gallery at all the creative people building and designing and making things that mattered, and realized she'd finally found her way back to the person she used to be. No, better than that. She'd found her way forward to someone new. Isabella called Gabriel Vale the following Tuesday, her finger hovering over the dial button for a full minute before she finally pressed it. Professional nerves, she told herself, not the fact that Maya had spent the entire weekend analyzing every word of their brief conversation like it was the Rosetta Stone. He answered on the second ring. Gabriel Vale. Hi. This is Isabella Marino. We met at the design showcase last week. Isabella, yes. I was hoping you'd call. His voice was warm, unhurried. Do you have time to meet this week? I have a project I think you'd be perfect for. They settled on Thursday afternoon at a cafe in the West Village. Isabella arrived 10 minutes early and spent the time second-guessing her outfit choice. Professional but not trying too hard, she had decided on dark jeans and a blazer, and wondering why she was nervous about a business meeting. Gabriel showed up exactly on time, carrying a leather portfolio and looking like someone who'd never been late to anything in his life. "Thanks for meeting me," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "Can I get you something? Coffee? Lunch?" "Coffee's good." He ordered for both of them, an Americano for himself, a cappuccino for her after she mentioned it, and Isabella noticed the way he made eye contact with the barista, said thank you like he meant it. Small things, details Roman had never bothered with. "Stop comparing," she told herself. "Not everyone is measured against your ex-husband," except she kept doing it anyway. Gabriel opened his portfolio and pulled out a set of architectural drawings. "I'm working on a residential conversion in Tribeca. Old warehouse building, 8 units, trying to preserve the industrial character while making it actually livable. The developer wants someone who can design interiors that feel authentic to the space without being cold or sterile." Isabella studied the drawings. High ceilings, exposed beams, huge windows. The bones were beautiful. "What's your timeline?" she asked. "Construction starts in 6 weeks. I need someone who can move fast." "I can move fast." "I've seen your work. I know you can." Gabriel leaned back, assessing her. "But I should be honest, this is a big project. 8 full units. The developer's budget is generous but not unlimited, and they have opinions about everything. It's going to be demanding." "I like demanding," he smiled. "Good, because I need a partner on this, not just a contractor. Someone who'll push back when my ideas are bad and make the work better, not just easier." Partner. The word sat strange in Isabella's mouth. Roman had never wanted a partner, he'd wanted an accessory. "I can do that," she said. "Then let's talk specifics." They spent the next 2 hours going through the project details. Gabriel had ideas about spatial flow and natural light, and Isabella had ideas about materials and color palettes, and somewhere in the middle of the conversation she realized she was enjoying herself. Not just professionally, though the work excited her, but personally. Gabriel listened when she talked, asked questions that showed he'd actually heard her answers, disagreed with her twice, and explained why without being condescending. It felt revolutionary. "I think this could work," Gabriel said finally, gathering his drawings. "If you're interested, I can connect you with the developer and we can formalize everything." "I'm interested." "Great." He hesitated, then added, "And if you ever want to grab coffee again, just to talk about design or the industry or whatever, I'd enjoy that." It wasn't quite asking her out, but it wasn't not asking her out either. "I'd like that too," Isabella said, and meant it. She told Maya about it that night, and her best friend literally screamed, "He asked you out! He asked me to maybe get coffee sometime to talk about work." "That's asking you out in architect language." Maya was vibrating with excitement. "You're going to date a nice, emotionally available man who respects your career. This is the best timeline." "I just left my husband 4 months ago. I'm not dating anyone." "You left your husband 4 months ago, and he's already called you 60 times and sent enough flowers to open a shop. Meanwhile, you're thriving, building a career and attracting successful men who use words like partner in non-threatening ways. I'd call that winning." Isabella threw a pillow at her. "You're being ridiculous. I'm being supportive. There's a difference." But late that night, lying in her studio apartment listening to her upstairs neighbor's terrible taste in music, Isabella let herself imagine what it might be like to date someone normal, someone who came home for dinner, someone who saw her as an actual person instead of an obligation. It felt dangerous and thrilling and completely terrifying. The Tribeca project consumed the next 6 weeks. Isabella worked 16-hour days sourcing materials, meeting with contractors, presenting design concepts to the developer who did indeed have opinions about everything. Gabriel was right. It was demanding. But it was also exhilarating. They fell into an easy working rhythm. Gabriel would send her architectural updates. Isabella would adjust her designs accordingly, and they'd meet twice a week to review everything. Sometimes at his office, sometimes at cafes, once at the actual construction site where they'd both ended up covered in drywall dust and laughing about it. He made her laugh. A lot. Dry observations about difficult clients, Stories from previous projects that had gone hilariously wrong, self-deprecating jokes about his own early design failures. I once convinced a client that chartreuse accent walls were the future, he admitted over lunch one day. They trusted me. They shouldn't have. How bad was it? They moved out within a year. I'm pretty sure I traumatized them. Isabella found herself looking forward to their meetings more than she probably should. Found herself dressing a little more carefully on those days. Found herself wondering if he felt it too, that low hum of possibility that had nothing to do with architectural drawings. Maya noticed immediately. You like him. He's a colleague. You like him. You're doing that thing with your hair. What thing? That thing where you play with your hair when you're nervous, excited? You used to do it in high school before debate tournaments. I'm not in high school anymore. No, but you're acting like it. In a good way. Maya grinned. When are you going to tell him you're into him? Never, because I'm not into him. We're working together. You can work with someone and also want to sleep with them. That's allowed. Maya, I'm just saying, life is short. He's cute. You're single. The math is simple. But the math wasn't simple because Isabella's phone still lit up regularly with Roman's name. Calls she didn't answer. Texts she didn't read. Flowers delivered to her apartment building until she asked the doorman to refuse them. He showed up at one of her job sites in week 7. Isabella was reviewing paint samples with a contractor when she saw the black town car pull up outside. Her stomach dropped. Roman got out wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than the entire renovation budget. He looked exactly the same, sharp, powerful, completely out of place among the construction debris and unfinished drywall. Isabella, he said. The contractor glanced between them, sensing tension. I'll give you a minute, he said, and disappeared into the next room. What are you doing here? Isabella asked. You won't answer my calls. That's not an accident, Roman. That's a choice. He stepped closer and she instinctively stepped back. We need to talk. We already talked 4 months ago. You said everything you needed to say. I was wrong. The words seemed to physically pain him. About all of it. Marrying you wasn't a mistake. You weren't a burden. I was angry and I lashed out and I've regretted it every single day since you left. Isabella felt nothing. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even pity. Just a distant curiosity, like watching a stranger's drama unfold on TV. Okay, she said. Okay? Roman frowned. That's all you have to say? What do you want me to say? That I forgive you? That I'll come back? She shook her head. I'm not coming back, Roman. You don't mean that. I absolutely mean that. You showed me exactly who you are. I'm choosing to believe you. People say things they don't mean when they're angry. No. Isabella's voice was firm. You said things you'd been thinking for months, maybe years. Things you were too cowardly to say out loud until I pushed you into a corner. You gave me the truth, Roman, the only honest thing you ever gave me. His jaw tightened. So that's it? 3 years of marriage, and you're just done? You were done first. I'm just catching up. I made a mistake. So did I. I married someone who saw me as property instead of a person. I spent 3 years shrinking myself to fit into your world. I'm not doing that anymore. Roman looked around the construction site, the unfinished walls, the paint samples, the evidence of Isabella building something without him, and something ugly crossed his face. This is what you left me for? Some renovation project? I left you for myself. You think you're better off living in some shoebox apartment in Brooklyn? Working yourself to death for clients who'll never appreciate you? Yes, Isabella said simply. Because it's mine. My work, my choice, my life. You're being naive. You think the world cares about your little design projects? You think any of this matters? It matters to me. That's enough. Roman stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. You'll regret this. I regret wasting 3 years with you. Everything else is bonus time. She watched him leave, watched the town car pull away, and waited for some feeling to hit. Regret, maybe. Second thoughts. The urge to run after him. Nothing came. The contractor poked his head back in. Everything okay? Yeah, Isabella said, and realized she meant it. Everything's fine. She texted Gabriel that night. Random question. Do you believe in fresh starts? His response came 5 minutes later. I'm an architect. I spend my entire life taking old broken things and turning them into something new. So yes, good answer. Why do you ask? Just needed to hear someone say it. There was a long pause, then, whatever you're working through, you're going to be fine, I can tell. How can you tell? Because you're one of the strongest people I've met. You just don't realize it yet. Isabella read the message 3 times before responding, thank you. Anytime. See you Thursday? See you Thursday. The Tribeca project wrapped in early November. The finished units were stunning. Industrial elegance, warm materials, spaces that felt both modern and timeless. The developer was thrilled. Gabriel was proud. This is some of your best work, he told Isabella during the final walkthrough. Our best work, she corrected. Partnership, remember? Partnership. He smiled. Speaking of which, I have another project lined up. Smaller scale, but interesting. A boutique hotel in Soho that needs a complete interior redesign. Interested? Always. Good, because I keep telling them they need you specifically. I'm running out of superlatives. They were standing in what would become someone's living room, surrounded by afternoon light and the smell of fresh paint. And Gabriel looked at her in a way that made her heart do something complicated. Can I ask you something? He said. Sure. The man who showed up at your job site last month. Was that your ex-husband? Isabella tensed. How did you... One of the contractors mentioned it. Said some guy in an expensive suit came by and you looked upset. Gabriel's expression was careful. I'm not trying to pry. I just want to make sure you're okay. I'm okay. He's not bothering you? He was. He isn't anymore. Isabella met his eyes. I left him 4 months ago. It wasn't complicated. He was a terrible husband, and I finally figured that out. He's been trying to convince me to come back. I'm not going to. Gabriel nodded slowly. Good. Good? I'm sorry. I don't mean good that your marriage ended. I mean good that you're not going back to someone who wasn't good for you. How do you know he wasn't good for me? Because the woman I've been working with for 2 months is confident and talented and lights up when she talks about design. And the woman I saw that day at the job site looked scared. His voice was gentle. You don't get scared of good people. Isabella's throat tightened. I wasn't scared. Not exactly. Just tired. Tired of what? Of being made to feel small. Gabriel took a step closer, not crowding her, just closing the distance enough that she could see the gold flecks in his brown eyes. For what it's worth, he said quietly, I think you're remarkable. The work you do, the way you think about spaces, how you fight for your ideas even when clients push back, you're the opposite of small. Gabriel, and I know this is probably terrible timing, and we're colleagues, and I shouldn't complicate a good professional relationship, but I'd really like to take you to dinner sometime. Not a work dinner, an actual date. Isabella's heart was racing. That's a bad idea. Why? Because I just got out of a marriage. Because we work together. Because... She stopped, searching for another excuse and coming up empty. Because I'm a mess. You're not a mess. You're rebuilding. There's a difference. Gabriel, I don't even know if I'm ready to date anyone. Then let's not call it dating. Let's call it 2 people having dinner and getting to know each other better. That's literally the definition of dating. Okay, fine. It's a date, but a low-pressure one. No expectations, just conversation and good food. If it's terrible, we'll laugh about it later and keep being colleagues. If it's not terrible, he shrugged, we'll figure it out from there. Isabella looked at him, really looked. At his open expression, the way he was giving her space to say no, the complete absence of pressure or manipulation or any of the things Roman had weaponized for years. Okay, she heard herself say. Okay? One dinner, low pressure, we'll see what happens. Gabriel's smile was bright enough to light the entire unfinished room. Friday night? Friday night, she told Maya, who promptly lost her mind. I knew it! I called it! I'm a genius! It's one dinner. It's the beginning of your romantic comedy second act. You're the career woman who thought she'd never love again. He's the sensitive architect who shows you that good men exist. Real life doesn't work like romantic comedies. Yours does, apparently. You're literally living the plot of every romance novel I've ever read. I hate you. You love me. What are you wearing? Isabella ended up wearing a dark green dress she'd bought years ago and never had occasion to wear. Simple, elegant, the kind of thing that made her feel like herself instead of trying to be someone else. Gabriel picked her up at 7, and if he was nervous, he hid it better than she did. You look beautiful, he said. You look terrified. He laughed. Little bit. I haven't done this in a while. Me neither. They went to a small Italian place in the West Village. White tablecloths, candles, the kind of intimate atmosphere that would have felt oppressive with the wrong person, but felt perfect with Gabriel. He asked about her background, how she got into design, what she loved about it. Isabella found herself talking more than she had in years, about her childhood, her family, the way she'd always been drawn to spaces and how they made people feel. What about you? She asked eventually. How does someone become an architect? Stubbornness, mostly. Gabriel smiled. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer. I spent 2 years in law school being miserable before I finally admitted I hated it and switched to architecture. How'd he take it? Not well. We didn't speak for about a year. There was old pain in his voice, but also acceptance. Eventually he came around, showed up at my first major project and told me he was proud. We're good now. That must have been hard, though, the year of not speaking. It was. But it taught me something important. You can't live your life for other people's expectations, even people you love, especially people you love. Isabella thought about Roman, about how she'd twisted herself into shapes she didn't recognize trying to be what he wanted. I needed to hear that, she said. Bad marriage? The worst. Not violent or anything like that, just empty. He was more interested in his work than in me, and I spent 3 years trying to convince myself that was normal. What changed? He finally told me the truth, that marrying me was a mistake, that I was a burden. Isabella took a sip of wine. Best thing he ever did for me, honestly. Hurt like hell at the time, but it woke me up. Gabriel's expression was carefully neutral. He sounds like an idiot. He's actually very intelligent. That was part of the problem. He's smart enough to manipulate people into thinking his emotional unavailability is sophistication. Still sounds like an idiot to me. Anyone who'd treat you like a burden has terrible judgment. You barely know me. I know you show up early to every meeting. I know you fight for your design choices, but you're willing to compromise when it makes the project better. I know you tip well, and you're kind to contractors, and you laugh at my terrible jokes. Gabriel leaned forward. I know enough. Isabella felt something warm unfold in her chest. This is going well. Is it? I can't tell if you're enjoying yourself or just being polite. I'm terrible at being polite. If I wasn't enjoying myself, I'd have faked a phone call and escaped through the bathroom window by now. He laughed. Good to know. They talked through dinner, then dessert, then coffee. The restaurant closed around them and they barely noticed. It was almost 11 when they finally left, and Gabriel walked her to her door even though it was 20 blocks out of his way. Thank you for tonight, Isabella said. Thank you for saying yes. There was a moment, a long, suspended moment, where she thought he might kiss her, where she wanted him to kiss her. But instead he just smiled and said, I'd like to do this again. Me too. Next week? Next week. He waited until she was inside before leaving, and Isabella leaned against her door feeling like a teenager after her first date. Her phone buzzed. Maya. How was it? Good, really good. Details. I need details. Tomorrow. I'm going to bed. You're smiling right now, aren't you? Shut up. I knew it. I knew it. Isabella fell asleep smiling, and for the first time in months, she didn't dream about Roman at all. They went out again the following week. And the week after that. Easy, comfortable dates that felt less like auditions and more like getting to know someone she already liked. Gabriel was different from anyone she'd dated before. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He split checks without making it a thing. He talked about his feelings like they were normal human experiences instead of weaknesses to be hidden. He was, Isabella realized with growing wonder, exactly what she'd needed without knowing she needed it. You're glowing, Maya observed one night. It's disgusting. I love it. I'm not glowing. You're literally radiant. You look like you're in a skincare commercial. I think I really like him. Obviously, the question is, does he really like you back? I think so. He keeps asking me out. That seems like a good sign. Have you kissed yet? Maya, that's a no. Why haven't you kissed yet? Because we're taking it slow, like adults. Adults kiss. That's an adult thing to do. But Maya was right. They hadn't kissed yet, and Isabella couldn't figure out if it was because Gabriel was being respectful or if he just wasn't that interested. The question answered itself 2 weeks later. They'd gone to see an art installation in Chelsea, some experimental thing with light and mirrors that Gabriel had been excited about. And afterward, they'd walked through the neighborhood just talking. It started raining, not a light drizzle, but a sudden autumn downpour that soaked them both in seconds. There! Gabriel pointed to an awning, and they ran for it, laughing and dripping. They stood under the narrow shelter, pressed close together, and Isabella was very aware of how he was looking at her. "Hi," she said stupidly. "Hi." Gabriel reached up and tucked a wet strand of hair behind her ear. "Can I kiss you?" "I thought you'd never ask." He kissed her softly, carefully, like she was something precious. Not possessive or demanding, just present, just there. When they pulled apart, Isabella was smiling. "That was nice," she said. "Just nice?" "Really nice." "Better." He kissed her again, and this time it was less careful and more real. They stood under that awning for 20 minutes, kissing in the rain like characters in a movie, and Isabella felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. The rain didn't stop them from walking back to Isabella's apartment, and by the time they arrived, they were both soaked through and laughing about it. Gabriel's glasses were fogged up, Isabella's hair was plastered to her face, and neither of them cared. "Coffee?" she offered at her door. "Or I could make tea. Or we could just stand here dripping on the hallway carpet." "Coffee sounds good." Her studio apartment was small enough that having another person in it felt significant. Gabriel looked around while she started the coffee maker, taking in the drafting table by the window, the fabric samples pinned to a corkboard, the stack of design magazines threatening to topple over. "This is nice," he said. "Very you." "You mean cramped and chaotic?" "I mean lived in, real." He picked up one of her sketchbooks from the table. "Can I?" "Sure." He flipped through it slowly, studying her drawings. Furniture layouts, color palettes, little notes to herself in the margins. Isabella watched him, feeling strangely vulnerable. These were her private thoughts, her raw ideas before they got polished for clients. "These are beautiful," Gabriel said finally. "You have such a distinct eye." "They're just sketches. They're more than that. They're how you think." He set the sketchbook down carefully. "Do you know how rare that is? To have a genuine perspective instead of just following trends?" Isabella poured coffee into 2 mismatched mugs. "You're being generous." "I'm being honest. There's a difference." He accepted the mug she offered. "Your ex-husband really did a number on you, didn't he?" "What do you mean?" "You don't see yourself clearly. You apologize for your work before anyone's even criticized it. You act surprised when people compliment you, like you think they're lying." Isabella sat down on her couch, pulling her knees up. "Roman had a way of making me feel like everything I did was never quite enough, like I was always falling short of some standard he never actually explained. That's abuse. It wasn't, he never hit me or anything. Abuse isn't just physical, Isabella." Gabriel sat beside her, maintaining a respectful distance. Emotional manipulation, constant criticism, making you doubt your own worth. That's all abuse. Just because he didn't leave bruises doesn't mean he didn't hurt you. The words hit her harder than they should have. She'd spent months telling herself it wasn't that bad, that other people had it worse, that she was being overdramatic. "I never thought about it that way," she said quietly. "You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, but you should know, the woman I've gotten to know over the past few months is incredible. Smart, talented, funny. If you couldn't see that, it says everything about him and nothing about you." Isabella blinked back tears. "Thank you. I mean it." Gabriel set his coffee down and turned to face her fully. "I know this is new, whatever this is between us. And I know you're still figuring things out after your marriage, but I want you to know, I see you, the actual you, and I like what I see." She kissed him then, coffee-flavored and grateful, and maybe a little desperate. He kissed her back, his hands gentle on her face. And for the first time in years, Isabella felt like someone was really paying attention. They didn't sleep together that night. Both of them seemed to understand without saying it that rushing wasn't necessary. Instead, They stayed up talking until 3 in the morning, curled up on her small couch, and when Gabriel finally left, Isabella felt lighter than she had in months. Work got busier. The boutique hotel project was more complex than either of them had anticipated, with a client who changed their mind every other day and a budget that kept shrinking. Isabella and Gabriel spent hours problem-solving together, sometimes at his office, sometimes at hers, occasionally at the construction site itself. They were good together, not just romantically, though that was going well too, but professionally. Gabriel understood space and structure, Isabella understood aesthetics and function, and somewhere in the overlap they created something better than either of them could have managed alone. "We should make this official," Gabriel said one night over takeout in his office. "Make what official?" "The partnership. You and me, working together. We could start our own firm. Design and architecture under one roof." Isabella set down her chopsticks. "That's a huge step." "I know, and I'm not saying we have to do it right away, but think about it. We work well together. We have complementary skills. We're both building client bases. Why not combine resources? Because mixing business and personal relationships is risky. True, but so is staying safe and never taking chances." Gabriel leaned back in his chair. "I'm not trying to pressure you. I just think we could build something really good together, professionally speaking. And personally? Personally, I'm already building something with you. This just makes it official on paper, too." Isabella thought about it, about the projects they'd completed, the ones in progress, the potential clients who'd started asking for them as a team, about the fact that she trusted Gabriel's judgment more than anyone else's. "Let me think about it," she said. "Take all the time you need." But the idea planted itself in her mind and started growing. A real partnership. Her name on a door. Not as someone's wife, not as an accessory to someone else's success, but as an equal collaborator in something she'd helped build. She mentioned it to Maya over drinks the following week. "Do it," Maya said immediately. "You didn't even let me finish explaining." "Don't need to. You're happy when you work with him, you're successful together, and you're dating. It's perfect. What if we break up? What if you don't? What if this is the actual healthy relationship you've been waiting for and you're too scared to believe it's real?" Isabella swirled her wine. "I'm not scared. You're terrified. You're waiting for Gabriel to turn into Roman, waiting for the moment he shows his real face and it's ugly. That's not—" "It is, and I get it. I really do. Roman messed you up. But Gabriel isn't Roman. He's proven that over and over. At some point, you're going to have to take the risk. What if I'm wrong about him? What if you're right?" That night, Isabella pulled out her laptop and started doing research. Business structures, partnership agreements, what it would take to actually formalize what she and Gabriel had been building. The numbers were intimidating but not impossible. The logistics were complicated but manageable. The fear was the hardest part. She was still researching when her phone rang. Roman's name lit up the screen. She almost didn't answer, had been actively avoiding his calls for months. But something made her pick up this time. Maybe curiosity, maybe the need for closure, maybe just the desire to prove to herself that he didn't have power over her anymore. "What do you want, Roman?" "I want to see you." "No." "Isabella, please, just coffee. 1 hour. I need to talk to you." "You've had months to talk. I'm not interested anymore." "I made mistakes. I know that, but I can change." "People don't change, Roman. Not fundamentally. You are who you are, and that person isn't capable of being what I need." There was a pause, then, "Is there someone else?" Isabella almost laughed. "That's what you're worried about? Whether I'm dating someone? Are you? That's none of your business." "You are." His voice went cold. "Who is he?" "I'm hanging up now." "Isabella, wait. I can give you everything. Whatever he's offering, I can give you more. Better. You know I can. I don't want what you have to give. I never did. I wanted you to actually care about me, and that's something you can't buy or negotiate or manipulate your way into. You think some normal guy is going to make you happy? You think he can give you the life you had with me? I hope not. The life I had with you made me miserable." She hung up before he could respond, and her hands were shaking, but her resolve wasn't. Gabriel texted a few minutes later. "Still up? Can't stop thinking about the hotel lobby design. Had an idea. I'm up. What's your idea?" Too complicated to explain over text. "Can I call?" "Sure." They talked for an hour about design concepts. And somewhere in the middle of discussing tile patterns and lighting fixtures, Isabella realized something. This, talking about work at midnight with someone who was genuinely excited about the same things she was, this was what partnership was supposed to feel like. I want to do it, she said, interrupting his explanation of some architectural detail. Do what? The partnership, the firm, us working together officially. Gabriel went quiet for a moment. Are you sure? No, but I want to try anyway. That's good enough for me. They spent the next month working out the details, found a small office space in Brooklyn that they could actually afford, filed the paperwork, designed a logo, made it real. Vol and Merino design became official on a Tuesday in late January. They celebrated with cheap champagne in their new office, which was barely furnished and smelled like paint, and Isabella felt something she'd almost forgotten. Pride. Not pride in someone else's accomplishments, not reflected glory from being attached to a powerful man, just pure, uncomplicated pride in something she'd built with her own hands. To partnerships, Gabriel said, raising his plastic cup. To new beginnings, Isabella countered. They clinked cups and drank terrible champagne and kissed in their empty office, and everything felt possible. The work came faster than they'd expected. Word spread about their collaboration, and suddenly they had more inquiries than they could handle. A restaurant in the East Village, a dental office that wanted to not look like a dental office, 3 different residential projects, all referred by previous clients. They hired an assistant, then another one, rented more office space, started having actual business meetings with lawyers and accountants. Isabella was working longer hours than she ever had with Roman, but the exhaustion felt different, earned instead of imposed. She was building something that mattered, with someone who saw her as an equal. You're different, her mother said when she visited in February. Happier. I am happy. This Gabriel, he's good to you? He's very good to me. Her mother studied her for a long moment. Your father would have liked him. Isabella's father had died 3 years ago, right before she'd met Roman. She'd been grieving and vulnerable, and Roman had seemed like stability when everything else was falling apart. In retrospect, it was the worst possible time to have made a major life decision. I think he would have too, Isabella said softly. Roman called me, her mother added. Last week. Isabella's stomach dropped. What did he say? Asked if I'd talk to you, convince you to give him another chance. Her mother's expression was carefully neutral. I told him to go to hell. Mom, I never liked him. Too cold, too controlling. The way he looked at you, like you were something he owned instead of someone he loved. She reached across the table and squeezed Isabella's hand. This Gabriel. He looks at you the way your father looked at me, like you're the most interesting person in any room. Isabella felt tears prick her eyes. I really love him, Mom. I know, sweetheart. And that's wonderful. She told Gabriel about the conversation that night, curled up in his apartment while he cooked dinner. He'd insisted on cooking for her, something Roman had never once done, and was currently burning garlic while trying to follow a recipe on his phone. Your mom sounds great, he said, scraping the burned garlic into the trash. She is, protective, but in a good way. And your ex is still bothering you? He called her, not me directly this time, which I guess is progress? Gabriel set down the spatula and turned to face her. Does it scare you that he's still trying? A little. Not because I think I'll go back. I won't, but because I don't know what he's capable of when he doesn't get what he wants. Is he dangerous? Isabella considered it. Not physically, but he has power, connections. He could make my life difficult if he wanted to. Then we'll deal with it, together. Gabriel pulled her into a hug. You're not alone anymore, Isabella. Whatever he tries, we'll handle it. The comfort of that, of not facing things alone, almost made her cry. Thank you, she whispered against his chest. Always. The hotel project wrapped in early March to rave reviews. The client posted photos on Instagram and tagged both Vale and Merino Design and Gabriel's architectural firm. Within days, they had 15 new inquiries. One of them was from a design magazine. They wanted to feature the hotel and interview both Gabriel and Isabella about their collaborative process. This is big, their assistant said, showing them the email. This magazine has serious reach. Should we do it? Isabella asked Gabriel. Absolutely. Unless you're camera shy. I've just never been interviewed about my work before. You'll be great. You're articulate and passionate, and you know your stuff. Just be yourself. The interview happened 2 weeks later in their office. A journalist and a photographer, both young and enthusiastic. They asked smart questions about design philosophy, the challenges of collaboration, how they balanced personal and professional relationships. So you two are dating? The journalist asked, and Isabella froze. Gabriel fielded it smoothly. We are. And before you ask, yes, it's complicated sometimes. But we have clear boundaries. We argue about design choices, not personal stuff. And we're both committed to making the work the priority. How do you handle disagreements? We talk them through, Isabella said, finding her voice. Gabriel has strong opinions, so do I. But we both want the best outcome for the client, so we focus on that instead of being right. That's very mature. We're very mature, Gabriel said, deadpan, and everyone laughed. The photographer took shots of them in the office, at their drafting tables, reviewing plans together. Isabella felt self-conscious at first, aware of the camera, aware of trying to look professional. But Gabriel made stupid faces behind the photographer's back until she couldn't help laughing, and those ended up being the best photos. The article came out 3 weeks later with the headline, Design's Dynamic Duo, How Vail and Merino Are Reinventing Collaborative Practice. It was glowing. The journalists praised their work, their partnership, their fresh approach to integrating architecture and interior design. There were quotes from clients, before and after photos, and a sidebar about their relationship that managed to be respectful instead of gossipy. We're in a magazine, Isabella said, staring at her phone where she'd pulled up the digital version. A real one, Gabriel agreed. Not just some blog, an actual print magazine that people read. This is surreal. This is success. Get used to it. Maya threw them a celebration party that weekend. Nothing fancy, just Isabella's close friends, Gabriel's friends, cheap wine, and good music in Maya's apartment, but it felt significant, like crossing some invisible threshold into a new phase of life. Speech, someone called out, and everyone started chanting. Isabella looked at Gabriel, panicked. You do it! We'll do it together! He pulled her to her feet. Everyone shut up for a second. The room quieted. This time last year, Gabriel started. I was working alone, taking whatever projects I could get, wondering if I'd made a huge mistake leaving a stable firm to go independent. And I was sitting in a penthouse, Isabella continued, wondering if I'd ever have the courage to leave a marriage that was killing me slowly. Now we're here. We have an office, a business, clients who actually like us, and each other, Isabella added, which is either the best decision we've ever made or the worst, and we'll figure out which one eventually. Everyone laughed. But seriously, Gabriel said, his voice softer, thank you for being here, for supporting us, for believing we could pull this off even when we weren't sure ourselves. To Vail and Merino, Maya shouted. To Vail and Merino, everyone echoed. The party lasted until 2 a.m, and when everyone finally left, Isabella and Gabriel helped Maya clean up. You two are disgustingly happy, Maya said, stuffing plastic cups into a trash bag. It's actually offensive. Sorry? Isabella offered. Don't be sorry, be grateful. You found a good one. Maya pointed at Gabriel. Don't mess this up. I'll try my best, he said solemnly. Walking home through Brooklyn at 3 a.m, slightly drunk and completely happy, Isabella's phone buzzed with an unknown number. She almost didn't check it, almost put the phone away and stayed in the moment, but something made her look. The text said, Congratulations on the magazine feature. Impressive work. You've really made something of yourself. Roman. Her stomach went cold. What's wrong? Gabriel asked, noticing her expression. Isabella showed him the text. His jaw tightened. How does he have this number? You changed it, didn't you? I did. I don't know how he got it. That's not okay, Isabella. That's stalking. It's just a text. It's intimidation. He's showing you he can still reach you whenever he wants, that he's still paying attention. Gabriel took her phone gently. Can I block this number? He'll just get another one. Then we'll block that one too, and if it continues, we'll talk to a lawyer about a restraining order. That seems extreme. Does it? Because to me, your ex-husband tracking down your new number after you've made it clear you don't want contact seems pretty extreme. He was right. Isabella knew he was right, but some part of her still minimized it, still made excuses, still treated Roman's behavior as less threatening than it actually was. "Okay," she said finally. "Block it." Gabriel did, then handed her phone back. "If he contacts you again, you tell me immediately. Promise?" "Promise." They got back to his apartment and Isabella couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. Roman's text had been polite, almost congratulatory. But underneath it was a message. "I'm still watching. I still have access. You haven't escaped." "Come here," Gabriel said, pulling her onto the couch beside him. "Talk to me. What are you thinking?" "That I spent 3 years with someone who saw me as property. And even though I left, even though I've built this whole new life, he still thinks he has some claim on me. He doesn't. I know that intellectually, but emotionally..." She stopped, struggling for words. "It's like he's in my head, questioning every decision, making me doubt myself. Sometimes I wonder if I'm only successful now because I'm trying to prove something to him." "You're successful because you're talented and hardworking. Roman has nothing to do with it." "But what if he does? What if the only reason I pushed so hard was to show him he was wrong about me? Then you used his cruelty as fuel. That's not weakness, Isabella. That's alchemy. You took something toxic and turned it into something valuable." Gabriel tilted her chin up. "But I don't think that's true anyway. I think you would have been successful regardless. You just needed someone to get out of your way." Isabella kissed him for that, for understanding, for seeing her clearly, for not making her feel crazy for still processing what Roman had done to her. "I love you," she said against his lips, and then froze. They hadn't said it yet. Had been dating for months, were business partners, spent almost every day together. But neither of them had actually said the words. Gabriel pulled back, his eyes searching hers. "Say that again." "I love you," Isabella repeated, more firmly this time. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to just blurt it out like that, but it's true, and if it's too soon..." "It's not too soon." He kissed her slowly, thoroughly. "I love you too. Have for a while now, actually. Just didn't know how to say it without sounding like a greeting card." They both laughed, and the tension broke, and everything felt right again. Later, lying in his bed while Gabriel slept beside her, Isabella checked her phone one more time. No new messages, no unknown numbers, just the quiet digital silence of a life moving forward. She deleted Roman's text, blocked the number herself just to be sure, and set her phone aside. Whatever he was trying to do, whatever game he was playing, she wasn't going to participate. She had better things to focus on. The morning after felt like the first day of something Isabella couldn't quite name yet. She woke up in Gabriel's bed with sunlight streaming through the windows and his arm draped across her waist, and for a moment she just lay there breathing. "You're thinking too loud," Gabriel mumbled into his pillow. "How can thinking be loud?" "I can feel your brain working from here. What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. I'm just..." Isabella rolled over to face him. "I'm happy, and that's weird. Happiness is weird?" "For me it is. I keep waiting for something bad to happen." Gabriel opened one eye. "What if nothing bad happens?" "That seems statistically unlikely. You're very cynical for someone who just said I love you last night." "I can be cynical and in love. Those aren't mutually exclusive." He kissed her forehead. "Fair point. Coffee?" They made breakfast together in his small kitchen, and Isabella burned the toast while Gabriel overcomplicated the eggs, and it was domestic and imperfect and exactly what she needed. Her phone rang while they were eating, an unknown number. She let it go to voicemail. "You okay?" Gabriel asked. "Just being cautious." The voicemail notification popped up a minute later. Isabella hesitated, then played it on speaker. "Miss Marino, this is Jennifer Chen from the Metropolitan Design Awards Committee. We'd like to inform you that your boutique hotel project has been nominated for Best Interior Transformation. The ceremony is June 15th at the Plaza Hotel. Please call us back to confirm your attendance. Congratulations." Isabella stared at her phone. Gabriel stared at her. "Did that just happen?" she asked. "I think so. Play it again." She did. Same message, same words, same impossible reality. "You got nominated for a Metro Award," Gabriel said slowly, like he was testing the words. "We got nominated. It's our project. The award is for interior design. That's you." Isabella's hand started shaking. The Metro Awards were huge, industry-defining, the kind of thing that could make an entire career. I need to call them back, she said. You need to celebrate first. Gabriel, no, I'm serious. This is massive. You're allowed to be excited for 30 seconds before you start overthinking it. So she let herself be excited. Let Gabriel spin her around his kitchen while she laughed. Let herself imagine what it would be like to actually win. Let herself feel proud without immediately qualifying it. Then she called the committee back and confirmed her attendance, and the reality of it hit her all over again. I need a dress, she said after hanging up. You have dresses. Not a Metro Award dress, that's a whole different category of dress. Isn't the ceremony 3 months away? Which gives me barely enough time to find something perfect. Gabriel smiled. You're adorable when you're panicking. I'm not panicking, I'm planning. There's a difference. She called Maya immediately, who screamed so loud Isabella had to hold the phone away from her ear. You're going to the Metro Awards, do you know what this means? That I need to buy an uncomfortable dress and make small talk with people way more successful than me. It means you've made it, Isabella. This is the big leagues. I'm nominated. That doesn't mean I'll win. Doesn't matter. Being nominated is enough. This is validation. Proof that you're not just good. You're recognized as good. Isabella felt something warm expand in her chest. Thank you. For what? For always believing I could do this, even when I didn't believe it myself. That's what best friends are for. Now let's talk about this dress situation. They spent the next hour discussing designers and styles and whether Isabella could pull off a backless gown. Gabriel listened to the entire conversation with an amused expression, occasionally offering opinions that were immediately vetoed. Men don't understand formal wear, Maya declared. No offense, Gabriel. None taken. I wore the same suit to 3 weddings last year. See? Exactly my point. Work exploded after the nomination was announced. Apparently being recognized by the Metro Awards made everyone suddenly want to hire them. Their calendar filled up months in advance, and they had to start turning down projects, something that felt both thrilling and terrifying. We're going to need more staff, Gabriel said, reviewing their project pipeline. At least 2 more designers, maybe another architect. Can we afford that? Can we afford not to? We're losing opportunities because we don't have capacity. Isabella looked at the spreadsheet, at all the numbers that represented their success, and felt the familiar flutter of imposter syndrome. What if this is temporary? What if we expand too fast and then everything dries up? What if it doesn't? What if this is just the beginning? Gabriel closed his laptop. I know you're scared. I am too. But we're good at this, Isabella. The work proves it. We have to trust that. When did you become so wise? I've always been wise. You're just finally noticing. She threw a pen at him. They hired 2 junior designers and another architect over the next month. The office got crowded in the best way, full of creative energy and debates about color theory and the occasional argument over whose turn it was to make coffee. Isabella loved it. Loved being a boss, a mentor, someone who got to shape other people's careers. She remembered being that junior designer once, hungry and uncertain, and she tried to be the kind of leader she'd needed back then. You're really good at this, one of the new hires told her after a design review. The teaching part, I mean. You make it make sense. Thanks. I'm still figuring it out as I go. Doesn't show. That became the theme of those months. Not showing the uncertainty even when it was there. Projecting confidence for the team, for clients, for herself until it started feeling real. The divorce papers arrived in early May. Isabella had filed months ago, but Roman had dragged his feet on signing them, using every legal delay his expensive lawyers could manufacture. Now they sat on her desk in a manila envelope, official and final. You okay? Gabriel asked, seeing them. Yeah, it's just weird. 3 years of my life reduced to legal documents. Shitty 3 years, though. True. Isabella opened the envelope and scanned the papers. Everything looked correct. Division of assets, which was minimal since she'd left with basically nothing, and the formal dissolution of their marriage. I should feel something, right? Relief or sadness or anger? You should feel whatever you feel. There's no should about it. What she felt was tired. Not exhausted, just done. Ready to close that chapter completely and move on. She signed the papers and sent them back to her lawyer that afternoon. And when it was done, she took off her wedding ring, which she'd been wearing on her right hand as a reminder of lessons learned, and dropped it in her desk drawer. How does it feel? Maya asked when Isabella told her. Anticlimactic. I thought I'd feel more dramatic about it. You already did the dramatic part. You left him, built a new life, fell in love with someone healthy. The paperwork is just bureaucracy. I'm officially single again. You're officially free. There's a difference. That night, Gabriel took her to dinner at a nice restaurant in Manhattan. Not celebratory exactly, just marking the moment. To endings and beginnings, he said, raising his wine glass. To moving forward, Isabella replied. They were halfway through dessert when she saw him. Roman, 3 tables away, facing her direction. He was with business associates, sharp suits, expensive watches, the kind of men who discussed money and power like they were the same thing. He was staring directly at her. Isabella's stomach dropped. Don't look now, but Roman's here. Gabriel stiffened. Where? 3 tables back, 9 o'clock. Want to leave? No. The word surprised her. No, I'm not leaving. We were here first. I'm not going to let him chase me out of a restaurant. Okay, then we stay. Roman stood up a few minutes later and walked toward their table. Isabella's heart was racing, but she kept her expression neutral. Isabella, Roman said, ignoring Gabriel entirely. You look well. I am well. I've been trying to reach you. About the divorce papers. There's nothing to discuss. Everything's already settled. I think we should talk before making any final decisions. We made our final decisions months ago. You made yours when you told me marrying me was a mistake. I made mine when I believed you. Roman's jaw tightened. I was angry. I've apologized. You've attempted to apologize. I haven't accepted it, and I'm not going to. Isabella set down her fork. I'm happy now, Roman. Actually happy. I have work I care about, people who respect me, and a life that's mine. I don't need or want anything from you. You think he can give you what I gave you? Roman gestured at Gabriel with barely concealed contempt. He already has, Isabella said. He gives me his time, his attention, his respect, things you never managed to provide. This is a mistake. You're throwing away everything we built. You built an empire. I built a prison cell. Those aren't the same thing. She stood up, Gabriel immediately standing with her. We're done here. Please don't contact me again. My lawyer will handle anything else that needs handling. She walked away before Roman could respond, Gabriel's hand steady on her lower back. They didn't look back, didn't rush, just left with their dignity intact. Outside, Isabella realized she was shaking. You were amazing in there, Gabriel said. I feel like I'm going to throw up. That's adrenaline. You just stood up to your abusive ex-husband in public. You're allowed to feel shaky. He looked so angry. Good. He should be angry. He lost something valuable and he knows it. Gabriel pulled her into a hug. You okay? I think so. Ask me again in an hour. They walked back to Gabriel's apartment instead of taking a cab, and by the time they arrived, Isabella's hands had stopped shaking. I keep waiting for him to do something, she admitted. Try to sabotage my business, or spread rumors, or use his connections to hurt me somehow. Has he? Not yet, but he could. If he does, we'll deal with it. Together. Gabriel unlocked his apartment door. But I think he's just bluffing. Men like Roman, their power comes from intimidation. When intimidation doesn't work, they don't have much else. You sound very confident about that. I'm confident about you. You're not afraid of him anymore, and he knows it. That's why he's grasping at straws. Isabella hoped he was right. June 15th arrived faster than she expected. The Metro Awards ceremony, the thing she'd been simultaneously looking forward to and dreading for months. Maya came over early to help her get ready, bringing champagne and unsolicited opinions about makeup. More eyeliner, Maya instructed. I look like a raccoon. You look like a sophisticated raccoon who's about to accept a major award. I'm probably not going to win. With that attitude, definitely not. Fake it till you make it, Isabella. The dress she'd finally chosen was emerald green silk, elegant without being fussy, expensive enough to signal success without looking like she was trying too hard. She'd agonized over the choice for weeks before Maya had physically removed her credit card and purchased it. You look incredible, Gabriel said when he arrived to pick her up. You have to say that. You're contractually obligated as my boyfriend. I'm saying it because it's true. You're going to be the most beautiful woman there. Liar. But thank you. The ceremony was at the Plaza Hotel, all gilded luxury and old money elegance. Isabella had been to fancy events before, Roman had dragged her to countless charity galas and business dinners. But this felt different. She wasn't someone's accessory tonight. She was a nominee in her own right. They found their table, Gabriel, Maya, their assistants, and a few industry friends. Everyone kept congratulating her like she'd already won, and Isabella kept deflecting. "It's an honor just to be nominated," she said for the 15th time. "If you say that one more time, I'm going to scream," Maya muttered. The ceremony started with cocktails and networking. Isabella talked to other designers, architects, potential clients. Everyone was friendly in that professional way that meant they were all secretly sizing each other up. She was mid-conversation with a commercial developer when she saw Roman across the room. He wasn't supposed to be here. This was a design industry event. He had no reason to be here. "Excuse me," Isabella said to the developer, and made her way to Gabriel. "Roman's here." Gabriel scanned the room. "I see him. What do you want to do?" "Ignore him. He's probably just trying to make me uncomfortable." "Is it working?" "Little bit." "Want me to go tell him to leave?" "No, that'll just cause a scene. Let's focus on why we're here." Dinner was served, speeches were made, and Isabella barely tasted any of it. She kept catching glimpses of Roman watching her from across the ballroom, and it made her skin crawl. "Stop looking at him," Maya whispered. "You're giving him what he wants." "I'm not looking at him." "You've looked at him 6 times in the last 10 minutes. I counted." Isabella forced herself to focus on the stage, where they were announcing the nominees for Best Commercial Space, then Best Residential Renovation, then several other categories she hadn't been paying attention to. "And now," the presenter said, "Best Interior Transformation." Isabella's heart started racing. They showed photos of each nominated project on the massive screens flanking the stage. The hotel looked beautiful up there, exactly as good as she remembered making it. "The nominees are," the presenter continued, reading from the list, 5 projects total, 5 designers who'd done exceptional work. Isabella held Gabriel's hand under the table. "And the winner is..." The presenter opened the envelope dramatically. "Isabella Marino for the Tribeca Boutique Hotel." For a second, Isabella couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she'd just heard. "You won!" Maya was shrieking. "You won! You won! You won!" Gabriel was pulling her to her feet, kissing her, pushing her gently toward the stage. Everyone at their table was clapping and cheering, and the entire ballroom was applauding, and Isabella walked to the stage in a daze. The presenter handed her a glass award, heavy, expensive, real, and gestured to the microphone. Isabella looked out at the crowd. Hundreds of people, all watching her, waiting for her to say something profound. She found Gabriel's face in the crowd, then Maya's, then let her eyes drift, just for a second, to where Roman stood in the back, his expression unreadable. "Thank you," she started, her voice shaking slightly. "I honestly didn't prepare a speech because I was convinced I wasn't going to win." Polite laughter from the audience. This project was special for a lot of reasons. It was my first major collaboration with Veil Architecture, and it taught me that the best work happens when you trust your partners to make you better instead of competing with them. She paused, finding Gabriel's eyes again. It also came at a time in my life when I was rebuilding everything from scratch, when I was remembering who I was before I forgot how to be myself. Her voice was steadier now. "A lot of people helped make this project possible. My incredible team at Veil and Merino Design. Gabriel Valle, whose architectural vision made everything else possible. My best friend Maya, who's been supporting me since we were kids and who told me I could do this even when I didn't believe it." She looked down at the award in her hands. "But mostly, I want to say this. To anyone out there who feels stuck or small or like they've lost themselves, you can come back, you can rebuild, you can create something beautiful from the wreckage. It's not easy, and it's not fast, but it's possible. I'm standing here as proof." The applause was thunderous. Isabella walked off the stage feeling like she was floating, and Gabriel met her at the bottom of the steps. "You were perfect," he said. I rambled. "You were honest." That's better than perfect. The rest of the evening was a blur. Congratulations from strangers, photos with the award, journalists asking questions. Isabella handled it all on autopilot, still processing the fact that she'd actually won. Roman appeared beside her during a brief moment when Gabriel had stepped away to take a phone call. "Congratulations," Roman said. "That was quite a speech." "Thank you. I meant what you said about rebuilding. That took courage. Isabella looked at him directly. What are you doing here, Roman? I came to see you win. How did you even know I was nominated? I pay attention. He took a step closer. I've been paying attention for months, watching you build your business, make a name for yourself. You've done well. This is creepy. You know that, right? I prefer to think of it as staying informed about someone I care about. You don't care about me. You care about the fact that I left and you couldn't stop me. Roman's expression hardened. You're making a mistake with him. With Gabriel? That's the least mistake-like thing I've ever done. He's ordinary, Isabella, safe and boring and completely beneath you. He's kind. He's present. He sees me as an actual person. Isabella shifted the award to her other hand. Everything you weren't. I can change? No, you can't. And even if you could, I wouldn't want you to. Because the problem wasn't just how you treated me. It was that I let you. That I made myself smaller to fit into your world. She met his eyes. I'm done being small, Roman. I'm done apologizing for taking up space. And I'm definitely done with you. Gabriel reappeared at her elbow, sensing tension. Everything okay? Everything's fine, Isabella said. Roman was just leaving. Roman looked between them, and for the first time since she'd known him, he looked defeated. Congratulations again, he said quietly, and walked away. Isabella watched him go and felt nothing. Not triumph, not pity, just a distant sense of closure. That looked intense, Gabriel said. It was, but it's done now. Really done. They left the ceremony an hour later, Isabella still carrying her award like it might disappear if she set it down. The trophy felt solid in her hands, proof that she'd actually accomplished something, that she'd rebuilt herself into someone worthy of recognition. Where to? Gabriel asked as they stood on the plaza steps. Honestly, I just want to go home, order pizza, change into sweatpants, process the fact that this actually happened. Best idea I've heard all night. They went back to Isabella's apartment because it was closer. Maya joined them, bringing wine and refusing to let anyone be self-deprecating. You won a Metro Award, Maya kept saying. You're not allowed to downplay this. I'm not downplaying it. It hasn't sunk in yet. Let it sink in. You earned this, Isabella. All of it. They stayed up until 3 a.m, eating cold pizza and drinking cheap wine and talking about everything and nothing. At some point, Maya fell asleep on the couch and Gabriel pulled Isabella close. How are you feeling? He asked quietly. Honestly, terrified. Of what? That this is the peak, that everything's downhill from here. Or maybe this is just the beginning. Maybe there are more awards, more projects, more success ahead. When did you become an optimist? When I met you. He kissed her temple. You make me believe good things are possible. Isabella thought about that, about how far she'd come from the woman sitting alone at a candlelit table waiting for a husband who'd never valued her, about the business she'd built, the love she'd found, the life she'd created from nothing. Good things are possible, she said finally. I'm starting to believe that too. The morning after the Metro Awards, Isabella woke up to her phone exploding with notifications. Emails from potential clients, congratulations from industry contacts, interview requests from design publications. Her Instagram had gained 3,000 followers overnight. This is insane, she said, scrolling through messages while Gabriel made coffee. This is what happens when you win major awards. People notice. I don't know if I'm ready for people to notice. Too late. You're officially successful. Might as well get used to it. Maya was still asleep on the couch, snoring softly with one arm flung over her face. Isabella covered her with a blanket and sat down at her small dining table with her laptop. The first email was from a luxury hotel chain. They wanted to discuss a complete redesign of their Manhattan flagship property. 30 floors, 200 rooms, multiple restaurants, and event spaces. The budget they mentioned made Isabella's eyes water. Gabriel, she said carefully, come look at this. He read over her shoulder and let out a low whistle. That's a massive project. Too massive. We're not ready for something this big. Says who? Says reality. We've been in business for less than a year. We have a team of 5 people. This would require... She gestured helplessly at the screen. I don't even know what this would require. So we figure it out. Hire more people, bring in contractors, scale up. Gabriel sat down across from her. This is exactly the kind of opportunity the Metro Award was supposed to create. You can't win recognition and then turn down everything that comes from it. What if we fail? What if we succeed? Isabella stared at the email, at the numbers that represented more money than she'd ever worked with, more responsibility than she'd ever carried. The old version of herself, the one who'd sat in Roman's penthouse feeling invisible, would have immediately said no, would have convinced herself she wasn't qualified, wasn't ready, wasn't enough. But that woman didn't exist anymore. Okay, she said, let's at least take the meeting. The meeting happened 3 days later at the hotel chain's corporate offices. Isabella and Gabriel presented their portfolio, discussed their design philosophy, outlined how they'd approach a project of this scale. The executives asked hard questions, pushed back on timelines, negotiated on budget. By the end of it, Isabella felt wrung out but exhilarated. We'll be in touch, the head of development said, shaking their hands. But I'll be honest, you're our top choice. Your work speaks for itself. Walking out of that building, Isabella felt like she'd just run a marathon. That went well, Gabriel said. That was terrifying. Terror and success aren't mutually exclusive. They celebrated with lunch at a diner, nothing fancy, just burgers and fries, and the giddy relief of having survived something challenging. If we get this project, Isabella said, stealing one of Gabriel's fries, everything changes. We'll need a bigger office, more staff, actual HR policies, business insurance, project managers, maybe an accountant who doesn't look at our spreadsheets and cry. Our accountant doesn't cry. She came close last month when I explained my filing system. Isabella laughed. We're really doing this, aren't we? Building something real. We've been building something real. This is just bigger. The hotel chain called back 2 days later with a formal offer. The contract was intimidating, pages of legal language and deliverable schedules and penalty clauses. But Isabella's lawyer reviewed it and declared it solid. This is legitimate, the lawyer said. They're a major corporation with deep pockets and a good reputation. If you can deliver what they're asking for, this could establish your firm as a major player. And if we can't deliver, Isabella asked, then you'll have a very expensive failure on your hands. But based on what I've seen of your work, I don't think that's likely. Isabella and Gabriel signed the contract in their office, surrounded by their team. Everyone cheered when they put pen to paper, and for a moment, Isabella let herself feel purely happy about it. Then the work began. The hotel project consumed the next 6 months. Isabella hired 4 more designers, 2 project managers, and an architect to work under Gabriel. Their office expanded into the space next door. They implemented actual systems instead of running everything through shared Google Docs and prayer. It was chaos. Beautiful, productive, occasionally overwhelming chaos. Isabella worked 16-hour days, survived on coffee and takeout, fell into bed exhausted every night. But it was different from the exhaustion she'd felt with Roman. This was earned. This was hers. Gabriel worked just as hard, and they developed a rhythm. Early morning design reviews, midday site visits, late-night strategy sessions where they'd argue about materials and layouts until they were both too tired to argue anymore. We need to hire someone to handle client communications, Gabriel said one night, reviewing their schedule. We're both stretched too thin. I know, I've been interviewing people. And I haven't found anyone who gets our vision. They're all perfectly qualified and completely wrong. Your standards are too high. My standards are exactly where they need to be. We're building a reputation. Every person we hire either strengthens that or weakens it. Gabriel smiled. You sound like a CEO. I sound like someone who's terrified of screwing this up. Same thing, basically. They found the right person eventually, a woman named Sarah who'd worked in luxury hospitality for 15 years and understood instinctively what they were trying to create. She started the following Monday and immediately improved everything. Why didn't we hire her sooner? Gabriel asked after Sarah's first week. Because I'm stubborn and wanted to do everything myself. Learning to delegate. Look at you growing as a person. Shut up. Roman called in October. Isabella almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. What do you want? I saw the announcement about the hotel project. Congratulations. Is that all? Can we talk in person? No. Isabella, please, I'm not trying to win you back. I know that's not happening. I need to say some things for myself, not for you. She should have said no. should have hung up and blocked his number and moved on completely. But there was something in his voice, not manipulation, just exhaustion, that made her pause. One conversation, in public, then you don't contact me again. Agreed. They met at a coffee shop in neutral territory, neither of their neighborhoods. Roman looked different, older maybe, or just more worn down. The sharp edges that had always defined him seemed slightly dulled. "Thank you for meeting me," he said. Isabella didn't respond, just waited. "I've been in therapy," Roman said abruptly. "Since the divorce. My lawyer suggested it, said I had anger management issues. I thought she was being dramatic." "Was she?" "No. She was being accurate." He stirred his coffee without drinking it. "I've spent the past 8 months talking about my childhood, my relationship patterns, all the ways I use control to avoid vulnerability. It's been—" He stopped, searching for words. "Uncomfortable." "Good. The therapist asked me about you, about our marriage. I told her what I told you that night, that marrying you was a mistake, that you were a burden." He finally met her eyes. "She asked me if I actually believed that, or if I was just lashing out because you'd asked me to be emotionally present, and I didn't know how." Isabella's chest tightened. "And what did you say?" "I said I believed it. Then I went home and couldn't sleep for 3 days because I knew it was a lie." Roman's voice was quiet. "You weren't a mistake, Isabella. You were the best thing in my life, and I destroyed it because being vulnerable with you was scarier than being alone." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserved to hear it. Because I treated you terribly, and you never did anything to deserve that. Because—" He stopped, composing himself. "Because I'm trying to be better, and part of that is acknowledging the damage I've done." Isabella sat back in her chair, studying him. This was what she'd wanted for 3 years. For Roman to see her, to understand what he'd lost, to admit he'd been wrong. Now that she had it, it felt hollow. "I appreciate you saying that," she said finally. "But it doesn't change anything." "I know. I'm not coming back. I'm not interested in being friends. I don't want you in my life in any capacity." "I know that too." "Then what do you want from this conversation?" Roman was quiet for a long moment. "Nothing. I don't want anything from you. I just needed to apologize without expecting forgiveness. To acknowledge that I hurt you without making it your responsibility to make me feel better about it." That was new. The old Roman would have made it about himself, would have found a way to make his apology require her emotional labor. "Okay," Isabella said. "Okay, Isabella. I accept your apology. I don't forgive you, but I acknowledge that you've said it and that you're working on yourself. That's all I can give you." "That's more than I deserve." They sat in silence for a minute. Not comfortable, but not hostile either. Just two people who used to know each other, acknowledging that they'd both moved on. "For what it's worth," Roman said, standing to leave. "He's good for you. Gabriel, I can see it. You look happy." "I am happy." "Good." He hesitated. "I really am sorry, Isabella, for all of it." "I know." He left and Isabella sat alone with her coffee, processing. The conversation didn't erase the hurt or the wasted years. It didn't make what he'd done okay. But it closed something, a door she hadn't realized was still slightly ajar. She texted Gabriel. Had coffee with Roman. He apologized. It was weird, but okay. His response came immediately. "You okay?" "Yeah, actually I am." "Want me to come meet you?" "No, I'm good. See you at home." See you at home. Home. Gabriel's apartment had become home somewhere along the way, though Isabella still kept her studio in Brooklyn for workspace and the occasional need for solitude. They talked about moving in together officially, finding a bigger place, but neither of them had pushed it. They were building slowly, carefully, making sure the foundation was solid before adding weight. The hotel project wrapped in early December, 3 weeks ahead of schedule and under budget. The transformation was stunning. Every room thoughtfully designed, every space intentionally crafted. The hotel chain was thrilled. "This is exceptional work," the head of development said during the final walkthrough. "We're already discussing Phase 2, our Boston and Chicago properties." "We'd be honored," Isabella said, and meant it. The official opening was scheduled for mid-January, but the hotel threw a preview event for industry people and press. Isabella wore a black dress, simpler than the Metro Awards gown, but no less confident. She'd learned that confidence looked different now, less about armor, more about comfort in her own skin. The event was packed. Designers, architects, journalists, potential clients. Everyone wanted to see the project that had taken a young firm from emerging to established in less than a year. Isabella worked the room with Gabriel at her side, answering questions, accepting compliments, already thinking about the next project. Somewhere in the past year, she'd stopped feeling like an imposter and started feeling like someone who belonged in these spaces. "You're glowing," Maya said, appearing with champagne. "It's disgusting." "You've used that line before. It's still true. Look at you. Successful businesswoman, happy relationship, fancy hotel opening. You're living the dream." "It's weird, right? A year ago I was sleeping on your couch, wondering if I'd ever work again. A year ago you were brave enough to leave a bad situation and start over. This is just the payoff for that bravery." Isabella hugged her friend. "Thank you for letting me sleep on your couch. Thank you for not staying there forever. Your snoring was killing me." They were laughing when Isabella saw her mother arrive, looking slightly overwhelmed by the crowd but determined. "Mom," Isabella made her way over. "You came." "Of course I came. My daughter designed this beautiful place. I wasn't going to miss it." Her mother looked around, taking in the lobby. "Your father would have been so proud." Isabella felt tears prick her eyes. "I wish he could see it." "He can. I'm sure of it." Her mother squeezed her hand. "You did good, sweetheart. You really did." The event wound down around 10, and the hotel staff started politely ushering people toward the exits. Gabriel found Isabella on one of the upper floors, standing alone in a guest room she'd spent weeks perfecting. "Hiding?" he asked. "Savoring. There's a difference." He came to stand beside her, looking out at the Manhattan skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows. "This is your best work yet." "Our best work. You need to get better at taking credit. You need to get better at sharing it." Gabriel turned to face her, his expression serious. "I have something to ask you." Isabella's heart started racing. "Okay. We've been talking about finding a bigger place, combining our lives more officially." He paused. "What if we didn't just find a place? What if we built one?" "Built one?" "There's a property in Williamsburg, old warehouse, needs complete renovation. We could design it ourselves, our dream space. Live upstairs, have the firm on the ground floor. Really integrate everything." Isabella's mind was already spinning with possibilities. "That's ambitious." "So are we. It would be expensive. We can afford it now, and it would be an investment in the business, in us." "In us," Isabella repeated. "You mean—" Gabriel took her hand. "I'm not proposing. Not yet. I know you're still processing the divorce, still figuring out who you are outside of that relationship. But I'm saying I'm all in. On the business, on us, on building a life together. When you're ready for more formal commitments, I'll be ready too." Isabella felt something settle in her chest. Not the anxious flutter of uncertainty, but the solid weight of something real. "I want that," she said. "The warehouse, the integration, all of it. Let's build something together." "Yeah?" "Yeah." He kissed her there in the empty hotel room they'd created together, and Isabella thought about how far she'd come. From a woman who'd made herself small to fit into someone else's world, to someone who was building her own world on her own terms. They bought the warehouse in February and started renovations immediately. It was a massive undertaking, gutting the entire structure, redesigning the layout, creating something that was both functional workspace and comfortable home. Isabella threw herself into it with the same intensity she'd brought to every project, but this one felt different, personal. Every choice mattered not just aesthetically, but emotionally. This wasn't just a space, it was a statement about who she was and who she wanted to be. "What do you think about exposed ductwork?" Gabriel asked one day, reviewing plans. "I think it's overdone in warehouse conversions." "Agreed. What if we boxed it but used interesting materials, copper maybe, or reclaimed wood? Copper could be beautiful, and it would age well." They worked like that for months, debating every detail, pushing each other toward better solutions. Their team helped, contributing ideas and executing the vision. But the core design was pure Isabella and Gabriel, a perfect blend of their individual styles, creating something neither could have achieved alone. The warehouse opened in September, a year and a half after Isabella had left Roman. They threw a party for friends, family, and clients, casual and warm, nothing like the stuffy events she'd attended as Mrs. D'Amato. Maya arrived with a housewarming gift, a framed photo of Isabella from the Metro Awards, holding her trophy with a genuine smile. "So you never forget how far you've come," Maya said. Isabella hung it in her private office, next to her design sketches and her favorite project photos. A reminder that success wasn't about what you had. It was about what you built from nothing. Her mother spent the whole evening exclaiming over details, asking questions about materials and choices. "You really made this yourself," she kept saying, as if she couldn't quite believe it. "With help," Isabella corrected. "Gabriel, the team, contractors. It took a lot of people. But it started with you, your vision, your courage to try." That night, after everyone left and the warehouse was quiet, Isabella and Gabriel sat on the rooftop terrace they'd designed, a private outdoor space with views of the Manhattan skyline. "I can't believe this is ours," Isabella said. "You built it. You should believe it." "We built it." "Okay, we built it together." Gabriel pulled her close. "Can I ask you something?" "Always." "Are you happy? Like genuinely, no qualifications happy?" Isabella thought about the business that was thriving, the relationship that was healthy, the life she'd constructed piece by piece from the wreckage of her marriage. "Yeah," she said. "I really am. It's not perfect. Work is still stressful sometimes. I still have moments of doubt. I still wake up occasionally wondering if it's all going to fall apart. But I'm happy anyway, because the stress is mine to manage, the doubt is mine to overcome, and if it falls apart, I know I can rebuild, because I've already done it once." Gabriel kissed her forehead. "I'm proud of you. You know that, right?" "I know. I'm proud of me too." That would have been impossible to say a year ago. Hell, it would have been impossible to even think. But Isabella had learned something crucial. Pride wasn't arrogance when it was earned. Recognizing your own worth wasn't narcissism. It was survival. Roman had tried to make her small, and she'd let him because she'd believed that love meant sacrifice, that being a good partner meant diminishing yourself to make someone else comfortable, that your value was determined by how much someone else valued you. She'd learned the hard way that none of that was true. Real love didn't require you to shrink. It didn't demand silence or submission or the erasure of your own needs. Real love was Gabriel asking her opinion and actually listening. It was building something together instead of one person building while the other watched. It was respect and presence and choosing each other every single day, not just in the beginning when it was easy, but through the hard parts too. The divorce was finalized in October, exactly 2 years after Isabella had left. She received the official decree in the mail and felt nothing but relief. That chapter was closed, the book was done, and she had no interest in rereading it. She threw the papers in a drawer and went back to work on a new project, a restaurant in Soho that wanted to feel both intimate and energetic, which was a design challenge she was excited to solve. Life continued. Projects came and went, the business grew. Isabella's name became recognized in design circles, not as someone's wife, but as a designer in her own right. She won another award in November, spoke on a panel about women in design in December, got profiled in a major architecture magazine in January. Through all of it, Gabriel was there, not as her shadow or her savior, but as her partner. They argued about design choices and compromised on business decisions, and split housework in ways that mostly worked. They had bad days and good days and entirely unremarkable days that were somehow the best ones. It was normal, healthy, real. Everything Isabella had wanted without knowing how to ask for it. The second Metro Awards ceremony came around in June, and Isabella was nominated again, this time for the hotel project. She didn't win, and she was genuinely okay with it. The project that did win was exceptional, and she could appreciate its merit without feeling diminished by losing. "How are you not upset?" Maya asked afterward. "Because I already proved what I needed to prove. To myself, to the industry, to everyone who doubted me. One award or 2 awards doesn't change that. Look at you being emotionally mature." "I've had a lot of therapy." She had. Started going 6 months after leaving Roman, initially to process the divorce, but eventually to understand her own patterns. Why she'd chosen someone like Roman in the first place. Why she'd stayed as long as she did. How to build healthier relationships going forward. The therapist had helped her see that she'd been looking for external validation her whole life, from her father, from boyfriends, from Roman, trying to prove she was valuable by being valued. But value didn't work that way. It wasn't something you earned through other people's approval. It was something you claimed for yourself. On the 1-year anniversary of the warehouse opening, Gabriel took her to dinner at the restaurant where they'd had their first official date. Same table, same menu, completely different people sitting across from each other. "Remember when you said this was a bad idea?" Gabriel asked. "I said I was a mess. That's different. You said dating was a bad idea because you just left your husband and we worked together." All of which was true. And yet, here we are, a year and a half later, living together, running a successful business, generally being disgustingly happy. Isabella smiled. "I've been known to be wrong occasionally." "Only occasionally?" "Don't push it." Gabriel reached across the table and took her hand. "I love you. I love the life we've built. I love working with you and living with you and arguing with you about whether brass fixtures are making a comeback." "They're not. They absolutely are, but that's not the point." He paused, suddenly nervous. "The point is, I want to keep building this life, officially, permanently." He pulled out a small box. Isabella's heart stopped. "This isn't pressure," Gabriel said quickly. "And if you're not ready, we can wait. Years if you need to. But I wanted you to know that I'm ready. That when you are too, I'm here." Isabella opened the box. The ring inside was simple, elegant, exactly her taste. Not showy or expensive in a way that demanded attention. Just beautiful. "I don't need time," she said. Gabriel looked up, surprised. "You don't?" "I spent 3 years in a marriage with someone who never really chose me, who saw me as an obligation, a burden, a mistake. I'm not going to waste time second-guessing a relationship with someone who actually sees me." She took the ring out of the box. "Yes, absolutely yes." "Yeah?" "Yeah." He put the ring on her finger and they kissed across the table while other diners applauded, and Isabella felt purely, uncomplicated happy. They got married 6 months later in a small ceremony at the warehouse. Just family and close friends, nothing elaborate. Isabella wore a dress she'd chosen herself, not because it was expected or appropriate, but because she loved it. Her mother cried. Maya gave a speech that was equal parts touching and embarrassing. Gabriel's father showed up and told Isabella she was the best thing that had ever happened to his son. It was perfect in all the imperfect ways that real life was perfect. Standing at the makeshift altar they'd set up in their shared workspace, looking at Gabriel and meaning every word of her vows, Isabella understood something fundamental. The tragedy of her first marriage wasn't that it ended. It was that it never really began. Roman had never chosen her. Not really. He'd chosen the idea of her, the convenience of her, the way she made him look legitimate. But Gabriel chose her. Every day. In the small moments and the big ones. In his willingness to hear her opinions, and his respect for her work, and his insistence that she was brilliant even when she doubted herself. That was what love actually looked like. Not grand gestures or expensive gifts, not possession or control, just consistent, daily choice. Showing up. Being present. Seeing someone fully and loving them anyway. Not despite their imperfections, but inclusive of them. The reception was casual and fun, and Isabella danced with her mother and laughed with Maya and kissed her husband. Her husband, what a strange and wonderful thing to think, under string lights they'd hung themselves. Late that night, when everyone had left and the warehouse was quiet again, Isabella found herself on the roof terrace, looking out at the city. Gabriel joined her, still in his wedding clothes, looking slightly rumpled and entirely happy. "Good day?" he asked. "The best." "No regrets?" "Not even one." They stood there together, and Isabella thought about the woman she'd been 2 years ago. Sitting in that penthouse, waiting for someone who never came, believing she was the problem, thinking love meant making yourself smaller. She'd learned so much since then, that you couldn't love someone into loving you back, that closure sometimes came from within instead of from apologies, that rebuilding was possible but not easy, and required both courage and support, that the right partner didn't complete you, they complemented you, challenged you, helped you become more yourself instead of less. Most importantly, she'd learned that her worth wasn't determined by whether someone else recognized it. She was valuable because she was talented and hardworking and kind and resilient, because she'd survived something that could have broken her and came out stronger, because she'd built something real from nothing. Roman had called her a mistake, and in his world, maybe she was. Maybe she was too soft for his sharp edges, too human for his calculated existence, too real for his carefully constructed performance. But she'd never been the mistake. The mistake was believing a man who couldn't see her worth was somehow the authority on her value. The mistake was waiting for him to change instead of changing her own circumstances. The mistake was thinking love was supposed to hurt. She knew better now. "What are you thinking about?" Gabriel asked. "How far I've come. How different everything is." "Better different? So much better. I don't think I even understood what happy felt like before. I knew what temporary relief felt like, or what distraction felt like, or what hoping things would get better felt like. But actual happiness? This sustained daily contentment? I didn't know that was possible." "It's possible with the right person." "It's possible with the right you," Isabella corrected. "I had to become someone who could accept real love before I could have it. I had to learn that I deserved it." Gabriel pulled her close. "You definitely deserve it." "So do you." They went inside eventually, to the home they'd built together, the life they'd created from scratch. And Isabella felt grateful, not for the trauma that had brought her here, because trauma shouldn't be romanticized or treated as necessary for growth, but grateful for her own resilience, for the friends who'd supported her, for the courage to leave when staying would have been easier, for the willingness to try again when trying felt terrifying. The warehouse became more than just a workspace and a home. It became a symbol of what was possible when you refused to accept less than you deserved, when you built something on your own terms instead of fitting into someone else's vision. Isabella kept working, kept designing, kept pushing herself to be better. She and Gabriel took on bigger projects, hired more staff, expanded their reputation beyond New York. They had fights about money and stress, and whose turn it was to deal with difficult clients. They worked too much sometimes and forgot to rest, and occasionally burned dinner because they were both distracted by design problems. It was messy and imperfect and real, and Isabella had never been happier. Because here's what she'd learned, what she wished she could tell her younger self sitting in that candlelit dining room waiting for a husband who never came home. You can't make someone love you. You can't shrink yourself small enough to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. You can't earn respect from people who fundamentally don't see you as human. But you can leave. You can rebuild. You can discover that the person you became trying to survive wasn't really you at all, just a defensive adaptation to an impossible situation. And underneath all that adaptation, the real you was waiting. Patient, ready to emerge when it was finally safe. Love isn't possession. It isn't power. It isn't something you have to beg for or earn through self-erasure. Real love is presence. It's respect. It's choosing someone every day, not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's hard. It's seeing someone fully, flaws included, and loving them anyway. It's building something together instead of one person building while the other watches. And sometimes the greatest love story isn't about finding the perfect person. It's about becoming someone who can accept real love when it arrives. Who knows the difference between intensity and intimacy, between control and care, between someone who says they love you and someone who shows it through consistent action? Isabella had learned all of that the hard way, through heartbreak and divorce and the painful work of rebuilding herself from scratch. But she'd learned it, and now she was living proof that you could come back from betrayal, from emotional abuse, from wasting years on someone who never deserved them. You could start over. You could build something beautiful. You could be happy. The warehouse lights glowed warm against the Brooklyn night, and inside, Isabella and Gabriel were already planning their next project, both professionally and personally. There would be challenges ahead, she knew, hard days and failed projects and moments of doubt, but she'd face them with someone who saw her as an equal, who respected her mind, who chose her every single day. And that made all the difference.